the bold, the brave, the beautiful. They turned their problems into prospects, crying into creation, pain into purposes, trials into triumph. Your show every Saturday, 7 p.m. Central African Time. Tune in and be blessed. Brought to you by Shunem K.
Don't forget to subscribe and click the notification button.
Thank you for joining us in this episode, and we are super excited and delighted that you have chosen to be with us today in yet another episode of The Bold, the Brave, and the Beautiful. Today we have decided to cross overseas and go to the United States of America, and there planted is a beautiful, bold, and brave lady that has joined us today, Sister Brandi Lytle, and she is part of the bold, the brave, and the beautiful in so many phenomenal ways. She is somebody that is very loving and caring and kind, and she has joined us today, and she is going to share from the book of experience issues that are important, that are going to help us. So sit back, relax, and be blessed as we welcome our special guest for today. And welcome, Brandi.
Thank you. Thank you, Sikhumbuzo. That's a beautiful introduction. I'm very happy to be here.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you very much. How do you want people to know you? Maybe briefly tell us about yourself, where you live and what you do, and all those things that you think are very necessary for purposes of introduction.
Thank you. Well, as you said, my name is Brandi Lytle, and I do live across the way in the United States. I actually live in South Carolina with my husband, Dane, and our fur baby, Maddie. And it's always kind of interesting when people ask me to introduce myself, what do you say about yourself? And sometimes I go straight to the fact that I'm a wife and a dog mom and an aunt. And then other times I talk about the fact that I do blog. I am the founder at Not So Mommy. I'm also the creator of the olive green Childless Not by Choice Awareness ribbon. And then there are just things like I love Hello Kitty and pumpkins and dark chocolate and all those little things that make me me. I also practice aerial dance, which is something that I really love, and truly is a place where I feel most like myself. And I blog about my aerial experience over at Not So Mommy as well.
Wow, that's lovely. I didn't know that bit about you, and good the bit of dancing. I didn't know about it, and that's very lovely, and it's good to have you today in the show. I don't know, and I'm thinking and I'm wondering if you are comfortable enough to share about your childlessness journey and briefly tell the viewers how it has been like.
Yes, of course. My husband and I were married in 2000, and in 2003, we decided that it would be the perfect time to grow our family. We both had careers. I was going to be graduating with my master's degree. We had a home, perfect place for a nursery. And so we decided that we would start trying. And a year or two in, nothing was happening. We hadn't gotten pregnant. And so we started monitoring my ovulation, and still nothing was happening. And so we decided to go ahead and seek the advice of an infertility specialist. My OBGYN actually thought that nothing was wrong with me. She had run a few tests and said she thought that I was healthy. When I went to the infertility specialist, however, and filled out the pages and pages of paperwork, he mentioned that he thought I might have endometriosis. And that was actually the first time I had ever heard of that disease. And he recommended that I have a laparoscopic surgery because that's the only way to 100% accurately diagnose endometriosis. So I went ahead and had the surgery. He did find that I do have endometriosis, and about 50% of women with this chronic illness suffer from infertility. And it is an illness that there is no cure. So he got rid of as much endometriosis as he could. I went into medical menopause for 6 months. And then after that, we started trying treatments, and we tried IUI, intrauterine insemination. We did discover that my husband had some issues as well, but the doctor said that IUI was worth a try. Unfortunately, after 3 rounds, we had not conceived. So we took a step back, and we ended up moving and went to a new fertility specialist, tried a few more rounds of intrauterine insemination, and none of those worked either. Now, the doctors did tell us that we could try in vitro fertilization, IVF, but I did not feel comfortable with IVF. When we were sitting in the office discussing the process and how many embryos we would implant and what would happen with the fertilized embryos that we decided not to implant, I was very emotional. I could not imagine trying to choose which embryos, and the doctor basically said the ones that did not get chosen, you would just allow them to die, and that still causes me emotion. I couldn't imagine doing that because for me, this was potentially my child, and I just couldn't simply discard them. So I told my husband I wasn't comfortable with IVF, and he understood. Since IUI wasn't working, we decided that we wouldn't do any other infertility treatments. We did check into adoption, both within the United States as well as internationally, and we even checked into embryo adoption because some people, the embryos that they don't use with their IVF, they will allow other couples to adopt them to try to have a child. But ultimately, if I was comfortable with something, he wasn't. And if he was comfortable, I wasn't. And we really felt like we needed to be on the same page. So 10 years into our infertility journey in 2013, my husband asked if we could just accept our life as it was, being childless. And at first I was really devastated, but I decided that I did need to go ahead and let go of one dream, the dream of having a child, and try to accept this life that my husband was asking if we could please accept. He really didn't want to spend another 10 years in this cycle of grief and trying. So 2014, started trying to accept being childless, not by choice. And now 2021, I'm in year 8 and year 4 of blogging about this journey.
It is quite a touching journey that you have shared. It must be emotionally draining. It must be very challenging. And also the different perspectives that you and your husband sometimes had. Not to say your husband was wrong or you were wrong, but because we see things differently. And those things impacted you in a way. You have a ministry, allow me to call it a ministry, where you are sending into the cyberspace waves of hope waves of peace, waves that are springing from a place of pain, waves that really lift people into a place where they say, I am enough. And you call the ministry Not So Mommy. Tell us about how it started and what it is doing to the hearts of men and women, because this is one of the men that is impacted by this ministry. So I'm saying men and women to include that. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, about a year or so into trying to accept our childless journey, my husband and I had the opportunity to host a foreign exchange student. And as part of that, we met another couple that was very similar to us. They were hosting a foreign exchange student. They did not have children. They loved their nieces and nephews. They had a dog that they absolutely adored. And so my husband said, well, this is proof that there are other people out there like us. And he said, you really should share our story because, you know, other people need to hear this. And he says, you could call it Not So Mommy. And so I kind of chuckled and I thought, well, you know, that sounds like a good idea. And I went off to work. I was a teacher at the time. And that evening when I got home, my husband, who is a man of action, said, I bought the URL for notsomommy.com. And I was a little surprised because I really thought we were just speaking hypothetically. But him taking that step and actually buying the URL for notsomommy.com got me to thinking about what I could write and what I could share and how I could really make this happen. And so it took a couple of years, but I did start slowly thinking about it. And then in 2017, I decided that I would resign from my 17-year teaching career and I would dedicate my time to starting Not So Mommy. And I knew that I wanted to share our infertility battle. I also knew that I wanted to share how what I say I'm redefining and how I'm redefining momhood for myself as an aunt and a dog mom and a host mom. And I talk about being a wife and all these different facets of what make up my plan B. And my hope was that as I shared the various ways that I am finding acceptance, that I could help others who are on this journey to start finding acceptance and figuring out a way to redefine their life so that they could get out of the grief of childlessness and hopefully find more joy in this journey.
Allow me to say kudos to your husband for doing that kind of a thing.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if he didn't step out there and say, okay, just going to surprise him with the URL for this kind of a thing. I don't know whether this thing was going to start. And secondly, I just want to say kudos to him for the moral, psychological, emotional, and all this support that he has provided. And that is very commendable because we in the childless journey, if we are not supporting each other, it really kills us because already we have societal scorn. How did you transition from a place where you were disheartened? Maybe my assumption is wrong. Where you were disheartened to a place where you are able to lend a helping hand to an individual that is in your pain, knowing that you may not be able to be a parent in the socially defined ways, knowing that, how did you then transition to a place where you are now tolerating childlessness? You are kind of accepting your situation, and you are not only accepting your situation, you are at a place where you are even redefining what momhood means. How did you transition to that kind of a place?
Well, it definitely took time, and there was a long period of time where I really was grieving, though I didn't understand that I was grieving at the time. But when I look back, I say I was in the pit of despair because I really was at a very low point, and I really didn't think that there was much good about life. And I just thought that if we could get a baby, then life would get better. And it just wasn't happening. And so at that time, I was teaching, and I was not connecting with my students very well. And so I reached out to a fellow colleague, and I asked for some ideas about how I could connect with my students. And she gave me a list of about 25 ideas. And the one that I decided to implement in my classroom was called Good Things. And so every Monday, I would ask the students to share one good thing that happened over the weekend. And because I was asking them to share, I shared as well. And honestly, I would have to start thinking on the way to work about what my good thing was going to be, because I thought there's nothing good. And so sometimes, literally, my only good thing was, we had fajitas for dinner on Friday night. And I would tell every single class that. And as the weeks progressed, I started challenging myself to tell each class a different good thing and to start finding more positives in my life. And honestly, I thought that I was doing this activity to help the kids, but really I think it helped me more than anyone, because my perspective started changing and I started realizing that there were some good things about my life. Now, we were still in the middle of our struggle at that point. But then in 2013, the day after Christmas, was when my husband asked me if we could please accept our childless life. And so, like I said, initially I was devastated, and we had just seen our nieces come downstairs the day before and open their presents. And though I always enjoyed those times, I often thought, I can't wait until this is with our own child. And so him asking me to accept our childless life, it made me have to change perspective and realize that I really needed to enjoy all of the moments of our life. I needed to enjoy when we were with our nieces and nephews, and I needed to enjoy the time with Maddie, with our dog, and just really focus in, rather than thinking it'll be even better when, just really embracing that moment. And so, to transition from being so overwhelmed by grief into an acceptance, it takes time, and it takes, at least for me, changing perspective. I did and still do have to allow myself to feel the sadness and the grief when it comes. But another piece of advice my husband gave me was, it's okay to be sad, just don't stay there. And so I try to remember, when I have moments, even still, where grief overwhelms, I allow myself to feel that grief, process those emotions, but I have to be really careful not to get stuck, and to remember that there are good things about my life. There is joy in my life, and to try to focus on those and not allow the grief to completely overtake.
It's okay to be sad.
Mm-hmm.
That's what he's saying.
Mm-hmm.
But don't stay there. And I think that's phenomenal. I think that's a very great thing. So it means that we need to come in touch with our feelings and not fake it, and pretend to be somebody else that we are not, because we are trying to run away from certain issues, maybe to be looked at with scorn by the society. And I'm wondering, what is it that feeds your drive? What feeds your drive?
Well, when I was going through our infertility struggle, despite the fact that my husband was very supportive and we were going through this together, I still felt alone. And it seemed that everyone around me was able to have children and that I was the only person that was going through this. And as I have started blogging and connected with women and men throughout the United States and throughout the world, I have realized that there really is a very vibrant childless community, and there are a lot of us out there. And so I started Not So Mommy because I wanted to help others to not feel so alone. And I thought, even if I could just reach one person, and honestly, when I started blogging, I thought, please just let at least one person read what I have to say. And then it's been absolutely amazing to watch God bring so many wonderful people into my path. And as I said, I last time I checked, I believe it was over half of the states where people have read blogs, and like people in 23 countries have come to Not So Mommy. And so it's just incredible to see him use this. And there have been times where I've wondered, should I keep blogging? Should I keep sharing my story? Because not everyone is positive and has nice things to say. But inevitably, when I start questioning, he will give me a sign. Somebody will reach out and tell me that what I'm doing is helping, or tell me that by me sharing my story, they don't feel so alone. And that's what keeps me going, is knowing that as I'm sharing, I am reaching others and I am helping them to realize that somebody else out there understands these struggles, and somebody else out there has also made it through these struggles, so they can too.
Wow. Oh, that's lovely, because there is some satisfaction that comes with ministry that is born out of a place of pain, and the satisfaction is that somebody out there is being helped, and your drive is not a selfish drive, because sometimes we may do these things in order to gain names and to do whatever, but your drive is a very positive one that longs for people to be satisfied, to be pacified in a peaceless environment. And so I want to say 5-star rating for that one for you, because that's indeed an incredible thing that you are doing.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. You are a religious person, somebody who loves God sincerely. But this very God that you love seems not to be answering. He didn't answer this prayer. He said no. He said no. And so how do you reconcile your faith to childlessness? How do you then deal with these issues when the answer is no?
Well, I remember when we were going through infertility, and I remember being in church and praying and asking God to please bless Dane and I with a child. And I remember sitting on the bathroom floor and crying, and the only thing I could ask was why, because I didn't understand why he would put this desire in my heart to have children when he wasn't going to allow me to have any. And one Sunday, we were in church, and the pastor was explaining that, down here on earth, we can't see the full picture. And so he said, think of it like a rug. And when you look at a beautiful, intricate oriental rug, you see all of these colors and patterns, and they all work together. So when you look at the top side of the rug, you see this gorgeous creation, and that's what God sees. But we're down here on earth, and the pastor said, we're looking up at the wrong side of the rug. And when you look at the bottom of a rug, it just looks like a big, huge mess. You see different colors, and you know that things are going together, but you don't know how. And so he said, we will never understand this side of heaven, why or how everything is going together. Now, he said, when we get to heaven, maybe we'll understand, or maybe it just won't matter anymore. But it gave me comfort and peace to know and believe that I don't have all the answers, and I never will. However, God does know what he's doing, and he is putting everything together to make a beautiful creation. And for me personally, I do believe that God closed my womb. I do believe that he chose to make me childless. And some would say, well, why would a loving God do that? I don't have all the answers, but I do know that I wouldn't have met all of these amazing people if I had children. I probably would not have hosted a foreign exchange student. My husband and I have an extremely close relationship, and part of that bond is because we struggled through infertility and made it to a childless life and found joy in that. And so there are positive things that have come from this. But again, we don't always get the answer to why. However, if we believe that God is doing all things for good, then that can bring some comfort in knowing that he sees the pattern of the rug.
Oh, that's lovely, because I'm thinking to myself, okay, she's saying I was not going to meet all these lovely people. The same goes this side of the camera, this side of the world. I wasn't going to meet you. I wasn't going to meet all the beautiful people, loving people. And my perspective of childless people was not going to be changed if I wasn't in this situation. And because now I've met so many loving, sweet, kind people, and this defies the notion that is out there to say, if you are childless, it means because God may have thought that you are so unkind that you don't deserve a child, you don't deserve, or so when you are childless, you are somebody that doesn't have mercy and kindness and peace, and so you become an embodiment of cruelty, mercilessness, and all those things. But no, that's not the case. That's not the case. We childless people are very kind, we are very loving, and I'm talking to one loving individual that is stretching her hand into the world and saying, no, come, let's reason together. This thing doesn't mean that you are not enough, that you are not complete. And so thank you, Brandi, for being the person that you are. And we are so grateful for the ministry that you are doing. Now, somebody may think about reaching out to you, and they may feel that they need to talk to you, or they may need to get into your blog. How do they get into your blog, and how can they contact you?
Well, my blog site is notsomommy.com, and I am located in the US. So mommy is MONHOD. MMY. And when you go to notsomommy.com, there is a tab that says contact me, and that'll take you to a form where you can fill out and email me. And it might take me a few days to get back. Sometimes it does, but I promise I will respond. And you can also find me on social media. Instagram and Facebook are the best ways to get in touch with me. You can comment on the page or direct message or private message. And then I did also mention at the beginning briefly that I created the olive green Childless Not by Choice awareness ribbon. And when you go over to the blog, you'll see an image of that. And if you click on it, it'll take you to a page that will explain why I created the ribbon and why I chose olive green. And awareness ribbons are not copyrighted. So though I created it, those within the childless community and outside the childless community are welcome to use it to help raise awareness about what it really means to be childless, not by choice.
Thank you very much. I am so pleased to have you talk to us today, and it is very phenomenal for me. To me, it is not a small thing that you create a ribbon for childless not by choice. This is something that you have born out of pain, the birth pangs of that ribbon. It's not just a ribbon, but it is a token, an emblem that speaks, that redefines who we are. And so if there's no one who can celebrate you, allow me to celebrate you and say, thank you for that creation. It is a lovely creation. So if you're watching right now, you can click on that ribbon in the blog and find out more why it has been created. And we need to create awareness. We are worthy. We are important. If you are childless, just like us, just know that there is a larger community out there that really cares about you. You are important and you are enough. Brandi, there may be somebody who's saying, I think I've had enough. Childlessness has really crushed my soul, and the community doesn't consider me as a complete mom or a complete dad. Fine, I have a fair baby. Fine, I have all this and that. Maybe I've had my achievements elsewhere, but I think of throwing in the towel. What could be your words to that kind of an individual who thinks that life is meaningless right now?
Well, it's always heartbreaking to me, and I have had people reach out and say that they feel like God has abandoned them or that they have no purpose if they aren't able to fulfill this dream of becoming a parent. And as I said earlier, it is okay to feel this sadness and to feel this grief, not being able to have the child that you dreamed of. That is something to grieve, and you need to. But you also need to allow yourself to feel the joy as well. I think sometimes we're worried that if we find joy in a childless life, if we find positives to a childless life, that means we didn't really want a child that bad in the first place. And that is not true. Of course, we really wanted to be parents. Of course, we really wanted the child or the children that we dreamed of. But if that is not to be, then it is okay for us to let go of one dream in order to be open to pursuing and finding another dream. And so be sad and feel that grief and feel that disappointment, but then open your eyes and your mind and your heart to a different kind of dream, into a different kind of joy. And just as I found one little bitty good thing of having fajitas, search for one small good thing, whether it's the beautiful sunrise, the fact that you get to eat a great meal. There's maybe a stranger who says that they like your outfit or that your hair looks pretty today. Start searching out those little bitty good things and allow yourself to feel that joy. And talk, find people that you trust. There is a huge Childless Not by Choice community. On my blog, on the resources page, there's one specifically for Childless Not by Choice. There are 35 plus resources, blogs, websites, books, closed Facebook groups. Find people who truly understand what you're going through. We will cry with you when you are sad. We will celebrate with you when you find things that you are joyful about. And we will help each other as we walk this really complex journey.
Wow, thank you very much. Thank you very much for those inspirational words that you have shared from the book of experience. Maybe somebody is trying to flip the Bible and try to find that book of experience. No, it's not in the Bible, but it is a book that is coming from our personal experiences of what we have gone through. And here is Brandi, who has shared from the heart issues concerning her own childlessness, but also demonstrated that being childless is not being hopeless, it's not being godless, it's not being fruitless, but being childless is just a fact that maybe you have not just received the gift that you are waiting for, and you just need to hold on to God. Yes, be sad, but don't be stuck there. Yes, grieve. Don't inhibit that grief. And these are the beautiful lessons that we have learned today. And I want to take this time to thank Brandi for really sharing from the heart, for really expressing the heartfelt issues that were in her heart. And I want to thank her for being vulnerable to talk about delicate issues that are stigma-littered and that are enshrouded with taboo, but you've been able to talk about this freely to help somebody to know that we are complete human beings. And for me, Brandi, it's time to say thank you for watching and thank you for being with us. Have a lovely evening or morning from wherever you are watching. Thank you. It's time to say
Bye.
bye-bye.
Brought to you by Shunem K.
Don't forget to subscribe and click the notification button.